What is good, YouTube? It's your boy OG Nomboy, back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be going over a team that consists of the Walrein and Trevenant core. So before the nerf, this was a very common and kind of overpowered core that a lot of people were running, but after the nerf I wanted to see if this team still performed well. So I'm going to be running the Talonflame as a safe swap to either pressure shields or kind of flip those mid matchups. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into these matches here. First match, we have Walrein into Walrein. So kind of how I like to play this out is I go straight for the Earthquake. Like, they're pretty unlikely to shield the Earthquake since like you both can tank an Earthquake pretty comfortably. So I'm gonna throw mine right away. Thankfully they don't catch or anything, but they didn't try to CMP us. So now they're gonna throw their Earthquake, and I'm actually going to attempt to catch the second Earthquake on my Talonflame. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Unless they bait, like, this should be the Earthquake, and even if they do bait, like, it's not the end of the world since our Talonflame can tank a Icicle Spear pretty comfortably. But they bring in the Giratina, and now like we're a little bit hard walled here, but we might be able to get a shield advantage depending on whether or not they want to throw a move at us. So they do throw a move at us, so we're gonna go down here because we really can't afford to shield that. Like, there is an argument to be made that we do shield there and then get off our Brave Bird to kind of force ourselves into a one-to-one shield scenario, but my worry is actually if they don't shield, because we'd be down a shield and our Trevenant doesn't really do that well against the Walrein down a shield either. So we actually kind of prefer to stay in the shielding scenario here, and we end up in this position here with the Trevenant against the Cresselia, and they swap back into their Walrein. So now we should just be able to shield all the Icicle Spears here, and we should be in a pretty good position. So we'll see if the opponent wants to let this one go or not. They don't, so we should be able to get a nice little farm down on the Walrein and have some energy ready for the Cresselia in the back. So honestly, a bit of a questionable shield from the opponent, but now I'm going to get this Shadow Ball off, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get to another Shadow Ball before they take me out with a move of theirs. So I hit this Seed Bomb here, and it looks like it is a CMP tie. So the correct decision on my part to throw the Seed Bomb, and even though it doesn't KO, we still have our Walrein in the back to finish up this matchup here. So we're gonna hit the Icicle Spear and take out the Cresselia here. So GG's to the opponent. Next match, we have the Walrein into Obstagoon, and Obstagoon is actually a major core breaker for this team as it does really well against both our Walrein and the Trevenant in the back too. So we swap into our Talonflame here, and there's really going to be no way that we are able to flip this matchup, because if they just invest shields, they will be able to win this matchup pretty dominantly. But I'm going to wait until now to throw my Brave Bird just so that I hold off on debuffing myself and I can tank one of those moves from the Giratina pretty comfortably. And now I'm going to either get alignment or get a shield, and I actually really want the shield here. Like, if they had let that go, we would have been in a pretty big pickle, because like we don't have any sort of advantage, and the Obstagoon does equally well against both our Walrein and our Trevenant in the back. So thankfully they give us shield advantage, and now we're going to go for a massive farm down on the Giratina here. And a lot of times the Giratinas now will be running the Ancient Power, but in this case it looks like they're just throwing Dragon Claws. I haven't really been paying attention to the battle, but now they bring the Obstagoon back in, and I'm gonna get off these Icicle Spears before swapping into my Trevenant. So now the Obstagoon is chipped quite a bit, and I'm definitely going to be shielding up these Night Slashes, as they would hurt a lot. But the good thing about this matchup, at least, is that the Obstagoon has a hard time farming down the Trevenant. So I'm going to get this Shadow Ball off. The opponent decides to try to call the bait, and we take them out. So now we actually have a pretty good shot at winning this match here if we just keep going straight Seed Bomb. and they shield the first one. They get off a move of theirs. They're likely gonna get to 2 moves, so we're gonna have to shield or let one of these go. So I get this one off on the CMP tie, and now I have a decision to make here as to whether to shield my Trevenant or to let it go, and I decide to let it go because my Walrein here has extra health and I know I can farm them now, but they actually get the boost and they are able to win that matchup there. So if we rewind a little bit, like, I think that was a pretty big mistake on my part and it was definitely winnable, but we end up drawing the match. So my concern here was that after throwing the seed bomb, that like I wouldn't be able to farm down the Obstagoon here before they farmed me all the way down and then had a move ready for my Walrein, because I'd be shield down if I shielded this move here. But looking back, like, it seems like it would have been possible for me to even just farm down with my Trevenant. And you also don't want to switch into the Walrein because you're going to be a turn behind, so they'd actually be able to farm me down before I'm able to farm them down if I swap in my Walrein, right? So that was kind of what was going through my head there, and that kind of caused me to throw the match because I forgot about the RNG boost. So a little bit unlucky for me there, but definitely could have avoided that scenario by just shielding, it seems like. So next match we have the Walrein into Talonflame, and this is kind of where we want to see it, since the mirror match can be kind of annoying, and especially if you swap in, right? Like, you're one turn behind, so they're able to throw their moves out first, so they can like throw a Brave Bird and dip and kind of force you to make the first shielding move. So we go ahead and let the Brave Bird through and I try to get off this Icicle Spear, and they bring in their own Walrein, so I'm going to build up to an Earthquake almost. I mean, with the Powder Snow that snuck through, that does give us an Earthquake, and we're gonna be, or I guess not, we're one off from the Earthquake, but we're barely able to survive that, and we do have energy banked on our Walrein, which may be useful later. So I'm gonna bring in my Talonflame, and I'm gonna go for the Flame Charges, unlike what they did where they went straight for the Brave Bird. And now we're gonna tank this move, or I guess we shield it. I don't even remember what I was doing in these battles, but this is like an okay shield since they likely will get to another move anyways. And I'm gonna try to get off this Flame Charge, and they decide to shield that. So at this point, I'm gonna shield again just to try to farm them all the way down and have some energy for whatever comes in next. So I actually decide to catch there because like they would have gotten the move off on our Talonflame. So now let's see what I did at the time. I bring in the Trevenant for a farm down, and they swap into their Talonflame knowing that I can farm them all the way down. So I'm able to get to this Shadow Ball before they're able to get to any move, and we're likely going to see their last Pokemon since they don't want to bring their Walrein back in and get farmed down. So they bring in a Trevenant, which is a pretty big mistake since we are a little bit ahead on energy, and we're going to be able to get to this Shadow Ball before they can hit us with a move, and that's a GG's for me. So good catch by me, past me, that kind of helped me win that match there, and just overall good decision making on playing out those matchups. So next match we have a Gallade. So this is kind of a tricky Pokemon for our team to deal with, since in the lead our Walrein would be taking super effective damage from either the Leaf Blades or the close combats, and the confusion's also really chunk, but they swap out of there into this Alolan Muck here. Ideally, I feel like we want our Trevenant on the Gallade, but that requires us to win switch here, so a lot of times they like to bait, and even if they do bait, like, this isn't really a bait because like they can farm us all the way down. So it puts us in a really rough position since like we can't really shield that. Like, whether we shield that or not, like, they're gonna be able to maintain swap. But an argument could have been made that I should have shielded there on the second Acid Spray to get off my Flame Charge and potentially win switchback, and we would have been in even shields anyways. But now we're in a bit of a sticky situation with the Gallade, and then we swap in our Trevenant, and they actually have a Snorlax in the back, so it ends up being pretty costly for us to not have maintained switch. But the Walrein against the Snorlax here also isn't the most comfortable matchup, so even in an even shield scenario, it might not have been too comfortable for us, but we definitely would have had a better shot if we did have alignment, because having this shield doesn't really do us any good since the body slams don't really hurt that much anyways, and it's primarily the lick damage that is kind of giving us a hard time in this scenario. So a little bit unfortunate for us, kind of a nice and spicy pick by the opponent, running the Gallade, because that's really more of a Ultra League Premier or Ultra League Premier Classic pick, but to run it in the Open Ultra League is very respectable, especially with a lot of Giratina and like Drapions and that sort of thing running around. So props to this opponent. I'm going to shield this just to try to fight the good fight and play it out, but it's not looking too good for us. So the opponent is definitely going to take this match, so GG's to them. Big respect for running the Gallade here. So, and on to the final match here, we have Walrein into, let's see, the Empoleon. So a lot of times when you see Empoleon, it's going to be Empoleon double charm. So I'm going to, well, I guess they swap out immediately. A lot of times they stay in that opening matchup, but I'm going to go ahead and go for these flame charges and try to get rid of this Charmer here, the Grand Bull. The Shadow Grand Bull is chunking, like their charms are doing just as much as our Incinerates, which is crazy, especially since like their move is resisted and ours are doing neutral damage. So I'm going to throw this next Flame Charge, just because I'm scared they're going to be able to charm me down before I'm able to farm them down, and they thankfully let that go, but they're probably going to get a nice little farm on their Empoleon. So they're going to get 2-3 waterfalls there, and it takes them 5 to get to the drill packs. So I'm just gonna stay in here. I'm going to throw the earthquake. Like, I'm just gonna go straight earthquake. There's really no reason to bait. As you can see here, like the Empoleon isn't doing a whole lot of damage to our Walrein, so even if they shield this, we should be able to get to another one. And as anticipated, they have a Clefable in the back, and this is pretty straightforward. Like, they won't be able to charm us all the way down before we threaten them with a lot of charge move pressure. So in this case, I think 2 Shadow Balls is the right play, since you will be able to reach 2 Shadow Balls anyway, so it's just safer to do that. But now these Shadow Claws are adding up, and it looks like a Seed Bomb would have been pretty close to taking them out anyways. So either way, like, we were just in a solid position and we couldn't really mess that endgame up there. So overall, we were able to go 3-1-1 with this team, and we really should have won that other game if the opponent didn't get the boost, or we just shielded their move probably. And that's kind of unfortunate for us, since that's a really heartbreaking loss against a really big core breaker for this team. But overall, still happy with the performance of this team. It definitely still performs well, and as you can see, it does have play against even the hard counter of the Obstagoon, and also the Scrafty is a pretty hard counter to this line. But as you can see, you know, if you play smart and play creatively, you can get yourself out of a lot of those scenarios there. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and also submit your battles in the link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.